Welcome back to the Detroit Lions Fan Forum podcast. I'm Mark, and with me, as always, is the majestic yet beautiful Hitch. What a game! I mean, do I need to even say anything? Not even you need to hype that up. If you watch that game, you know what I'm talking about. That was so fun to watch. That's what I keep thinking about all day. What do you think, Hitch?
I've been racking my brain all the games I've watched, all the games I've attended. I don't remember a more entertaining regular season game than this one. Obviously, the W helped because the last couple times we played Seattle, it's been bonkers, and we've had some huge games in the last year. Obviously, this pales in comparison to like an NFC Championship game, even though it was a loss. But I've been racking my brain all day, and I can't think of a Lions game that I enjoyed watching more than this. And we've been waiting for this. We've been waiting for this.
It was like the entire time the game was going on, there wasn't a negative thing that went through my head. It was watching it with confidence.
Yep.
I didn't think for once, what if this, what if that, pacing. I mean, I just had a lot of fun, dude.
It was. The third quarter got a little dicey, but I never felt like it was out of reach or like we were blowing it. I do have some things in my notes that aren't super positive because we've said all along we're not going to be just Lion slappies. It's real easy to get on here and talk about a game like this and a win. But there are some things that we'll cover down the line here that weren't awesome. But overall, I'm 100 out of 100 right now. I mean, it was just enthralling.
Well, speaking of enthralling, you've yet again seemed to wear some Lions garb, I'm assuming. Is it the hat?
It is the hat. I was going to put on my T-shirt, but I just came straight out here after work, and I'm raring to go, dude. I'm fired up.
All right, well, that's fine. I won't harass you too much this week. So, I
am out of Grateful Dead gear. You've seen it all. So I might have to start recycling.
Well, let's just start off with 42-29. I don't know if any of us even came close to that score of what we could have predicted. I think we both thought it was going to be pretty evenly matched game. And quite honestly, for the most part, even the way we started, it still seemed like their game to win. Our game to lose up until that fourth quarter. Then we obviously just took it home, right? And did everything we're about to talk about. But let's talk about first, going into this game, we knew we were injured on the defense, injured on the offensive line. You and I both said, really no need to worry. It's next man up. There's a game plan. Let's just see who, like we say, benefits from this. So let's talk about benefiting, right? Because with so much you can get excited about in this game, right? Let's not get lost in a gentleman that I want to start with is Kerby Joseph.
Absolutely. INT number 3.
You just said it. He's got interception number 3. He's making all of the game sealing, kind of the holy shit, we just won this game with that play. He's making every tackle you can ask him to make. He's not getting penalized from what I can remember in any of the games. Playing different positions based on who's hurt. Never really heard anything negative said about the guy. And it's so cool that we're at a spot now where you have your designated guys you can talk about, and then you can get excited like these Kerby Josephs. There's not a lot of pressure on him now to save the team because he's playing really well. He can just continue playing really well.
He's playing as good or better than any safety in the league right now. And there are some marquee safeties. Yeah.
So let's just see.
Of the world. I mean, would you trade Budda Baker for Kerby Joseph? I don't think so. Not right now.
The way he's playing, he gives you no reason to think about trading anything. And this is the reason why I say it, because I sat down and I really didn't get too wrapped up in the injuries up until, okay, the game's about to start, because what's the point? You're just going to lose sleep over nothing.
Sure.
So I see who's injured, and I see my buddy Brian Branch. And my first thought is, man, this is just that type of game where all these guys that usually are in the middle of every play, they're out. And no offense to everybody behind him, and I know we spoke highly of the depth, but I got a little kind of a glimpse of being nervous, right? So I want to give a big kudos to Kirby Joseph, because I think he's going to continue to show us week in and week out that I'm here for at least one IMT. I'm here to play where you need me to play, and I'm going to tackle through the whistle.
Yeah, they'll play through the whistle. A guy like Kirby, you can't expect 17 games, 17 picks, but he's on pace for a real special season. And he did it again, healthy, or I'm sorry, not a healthy scratch, but a late scratch for illness for Branch.
Yeah.
And I found myself thinking, like, oh boy, because we've said it 1,000 times on this show, I believe this defense starts from the top down. The safeties have played a pivotal role in every game so far. They played fairly clean. I was a little anxious when I saw Branch out, but we didn't miss a beat, and Cujo just kept it coming, right?
Yeah. Well, you say top down. You look at the last 4 games. And really, since you said that, honestly, the leading tacklers on the defense have been corners and safeties. It was just this week again, where, like last week, our leading tackler is a corner or a safety. And
well,
not just one, man.
A big part in that. We've had multiple double-digit tackles by these linebackers, but we can talk about linebackers next.
I was going to say, let's talk about linebackers next, because there's a lot. There really is a lot to bite into on the linebackers. But the secondary continues to not only fight through the injuries, but the adversity of not being respected. Right?
You're going to start demanding some respect now, though. I mean,
I think you're right, and I think we saw that kind of at the end of this game, where in my head I picture Arnold and Davis walking up to those refs and just saying, "Listen, when are you going to stop trying to test us? We're not going to stop playing our game. We're not going to stop playing physical man coverage. I'm not going to let these guys beat me down because this is the wide receiver diva league, right? The way these guys are kind of given so much space, and really you want to see them from a fantasy standpoint have big numbers. But
sure,
there's some really clear evidence in the way that Terrion Arnold really was targeted. And I can't say this enough. I think this is where you see some corners, not some. This is the make it or break it point for these first round corners that are going to be on teams that aren't going to get the calls. And the NFL is going to say, listen, how much of this can you take? Right? And I'm confident that Arnold is showing them that he's here for good and you're not going to mess with him.
Yeah, he was a big topic of conversation today at my office, and everybody that I talk to shares my concern with the frequent PIs. But as we said before, it's such a coachable thing. And this kid was playing college football like every other rookie at this point in the year, into week 3 or 4 or 5 of college football. They were halfway done with their season at this point, and it's just the PIs aren't troublesome to me yet. If they persist, there's going to be a point where this gets us in trouble. But it's coachable.
Yeah,
and we're not just leaning on Arnold.
Any team,
right? We're not just leaning on Arnold. We have 3 very serviceable corners on this roster other than Arnold, right? We're not even asking him to be number 1 right now. I'm not going to lose sleep over it when the offense did what they did, when the rest of the defense did what they did, and his numbers are solid. You take away the frequent PIs, you get those off the stat sheet, and this kid is playing at a very high level, and he's in great position.
Yeah, that's why I think if that's the big noise, that's the talk on the forum too. There was one of the user members of the fan forum kind of brought up that same gripe. I heard it at work. I heard it kind of saw it through the headlines. Again, like I told one of my coworkers this morning, if that's all we're complaining about out of that game, great, right?
Absolutely.
Sticking with corners, Robertson. We talked about him last week. You've brought him up in conversation even off this podcast.
Yeah, I'm very high on him.
Man, he had 8 tackles. You saw him light up on the scoreboard last night and contribute. So this is someone who benefits, right? Was coming in at 1 or 2 tackles. Real no pressure. Injuries come through. He shows up in moments. And, it's pretty ironic that not only, well, we'll save that for the linebackers. I'll let you have your moment with the linebackers.
What we should point out about guys like Robinson, historically, when you see corners leading the stat sheet in tackles, it's because they're getting burned. But Robinson had a couple of plays up on the line of scrimmage last night. He's supporting the run defense. He's coming up into the box. What's funny to me, and what I kept thinking last night, without Branch in the lineup, every one of these guys has the potential to take that CJ Gardner-Johnson role. They can play up on the line of scrimmage. They can play up over the top. We're not missing a guy like CJ Gardner-Johnson, even though we spent a significant time here on the injury report. When he departed, I think we all thought, okay, what are we going to do now to fill this gap? The gap is filled. Guys like Joseph and guys like Branch are the modern day CJ Gardner-Johnson, and it's just fantastic that we have multiple defensive backs really on this team that can check that box. I don't want to call a couple of these guys, I don't want to call them slot corners. I don't want to solidify them in at safety. They can play everywhere. That's why I've been so high on these safeties. That's why I've been so high on these safeties since the preseason. This defense is running through these safeties, and no pun intended, man. They're coming up into the box. They're forcing turnovers. They're in on every play. They're very versatile guys.
No, you're right.
It's just been a lot of fun, a whole lot of fun. And historically, I like watching football and looking at guys like my favorite football player of all time is John Lynch. I loved watching some of the safeties that we grew up with, the Ed Reeds, the Troy Polamalu's. We have something special going on in the secondary right now, even just independent of the 2 outside corners. This is a special defense. And gone are the days where these great defenses allow 12 points. It's okay that we allowed, 20 plus points a game. Gone are the days in this pass-happy NFL where you can shut teams down and really close it out at 12 or 17 points. It doesn't alarm me that we're allowing these teams to get into the end zone sometimes, because the propensity for a turnover, for a game-changing play, for a sack, and let's talk about forced fumbles when we talk about the linebackers, the propensity for a game-changing play is out there every time these guys are on the field. This was the best offensive performance we have seen from these Detroit Lions in 2+ years, and I found myself still just waiting for the defense to get on the field. Right? It's just been a ton of fun.
Well, you said it again. So let's just get right to the linebackers, because we've all been talking independently through each episodes. Barnes, Anzalone, you've been bringing up Jack Campbell nonstop.
Since day one, baby.
No, the posters are right above your bed.
Right.
It was so refreshing, right? Because let's just say the week prior, they did their job, but they didn't show me that they're pissed off. They didn't come out like Road Warrior Hawk and Road Warrior Animal with the shoulder pads on. Like, that's how that entire linebacking core came out again, right? Aggressive tackling through the whistle, just forcing the fumble. I mean, it was impressive that core, although injured, looked better. I mean, you're missing Derek Barnes, who's been contributing at a high level And nothing against Rodrigo, but hey, he's like, guys, I'm going to remind you on why y'all fell in love with me so quick.
Yeah, he's not
Contributes
just
right
a
away.
character.
Holy
He's not
crap,
just
great.
a character to kind of yuck it up
No.
with on Hard Knocks. He put out there who he is. He put out there what he is during Hard Knocks. We got that inside look.
A guy that shows up to work every day.
Last year he
That's
got
who he is.
a little lost in the shuffle. Barnes really turned a corner last year and was progressing in the right direction still this year, and that buried Rodriguez a little bit. And that's a good problem to have. You know, that's what's nice about this team is we were all thinking, shit, Barnes is done for a while. And we have injuries all over this defensive line. And what's going to happen here? But teams with depth, i.e., good teams, they weather that. And you just said it. Not only did we band-aid it together and weather it, but this is proof that we have depth. We have depth at every position on defense. We did it without Branch. We did it without without Barnes. We did it with Pasquale getting a significant increase to snaps. We did it all over this defense, but let's focus for a second just on these linebackers. Jack Barnes sideline to sideline last night and last week against Arizona. I think he's starting to put to bed this idea that he's just a run-stopping, zone defending linebacker. His sideline to sideline last night was out of this world, and so was Rico's. They were in on every goddamn play.
I love the world you live in where every player is a hybrid name of Jack Barnes or we say this every year that we're going to keep a running tally of all the players you slaughter, right? And I always forget because I'm like, okay, we're going to be talking about players that he loves, and you're just like Jack Barnes.
It's all good, dude. We all live in our own little world a little bit, and I'm riding
I love
high.
it.
I'm
the
riding
world
high
is
on
a
this
great
one,
world.
man. There's nothing.
No, thanks for sharing your world with us.
I enjoy living in it, man. And there's just nothing better than a football game to me where the defensive stars and the risers are the young guys, and they're coming from the middle and the back end. You know, it's just my style. Sideline to sideline, phenomenal.
You said it, though. He's proving, okay, so we know what kind of linebacker that the NFL boxed him in as for draft sake, right? So then obviously we all start talking about him as he's this kind of linebacker. Guess what? You and I have never sat down with him and literally seen him play and said, okay, what kind of linebacker are you? So it's not fair for us to say he's a this, he's a that. Judging by his size, his ability, his position he was drafted, how much he contributed in college, you have no reason to believe he can't be coached to another level to what you're talking about, right? And that's what you're saying. He's coming out and saying, listen, I'm not just this guy. I'm Jack Barnes Campbell. Which Jason, by the way, asked me if he was related to Dan Campbell. But which I never even thought. Same goddamn name.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved what I saw out of him. And, you know, Anzalone wasn't, I don't want to say had a quiet game because he didn't, but it was Campbell's game to stand out. It really was.
Campbell and Rodriguez put their stamp on what they can do for this roster last night. And I don't think anybody was shocked by Campbell turning out like that. But again, Rodrigo kind of being lost in the shuffle last year with the Barnes elevation, if you will. It was just so nice to see these guys making plays in the backfield and making plays sideline to sideline. It put my mind to ease. It kind of solidified everything that we've been saying since the Gibbs and Campbell draft, right? And think about that, man. We were all a little shell-shocked after day one of that draft. And, you know, of course, the Cowboys take Parsons the year before, I think, and they took him at like 7th or 11th. He's a pass rusher. Don't fool yourself. He gets 1,000 tackles. He gets a lot of sacks. He can force turnovers, but he's this hybrid linebacker that the league has shifted to. You don't see inside linebackers going as high as Campbell went, right? And we all said, let's just see how this draft finishes in its totality. But flash forward to what they're doing now, and in particular what they did last night, and this just shows that Holmes and Dan Campbell, they know exactly what this team needs, and they're not worried about cap math, and they're not worried about the Jimmy Johnson draft value chart like all these other fucking teams use. They just know what this team needed. They knew what voids had to be filled. They knew what these guys might be lacking could be coached. And now we're less than 14, 15 months, 16 months away from that draft, and he's on pace to be a Pro Bowler. Kirby Joseph, Pro Bowler. Rodriguez getting his time to shine, and he's shining, right? It just goes to show. Yeah, dude, it goes to show.
We haven't even mentioned that. He had a sack. I think it was the first sack of the game.
Yeah,
too.
All of these guys are playing behind the line of scrimmage, at the line of scrimmage, stopping the run, just dominating. And I don't, you know what? I say stopping the run with a grain of salt or a smile on my face, because
a caveat that it's Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, Walker ran all over us, but they were chunk plays. We missed some tackles. I have that on my sheet. Anzalone missed some big tackles, but we didn't let it crush us. We kept coming back. We kept scoring and kept scoring. We keep saying we want to see a game where they come out of halftime with their knees on the neck, and I think they did. We were outscored 14-13 in the third quarter, but then we came back and just kept scoring, right?
We did, and that was again, you look at some other things that we've also said, sticking on topic with the defense. We called out and really mainly said, hey, Levi Anzarike, it's your time to step up, right? DJ Reader.
Oh, yeah, he had a sack, right?
Let's see what you do in that Lions jersey. He had a sack, exactly. We've talked about it on here and in person. Every game isn't going to be Hutch 5 sacks. But in order to get those Hutch 5 sacks games, you need Ali McNeil, you need Rodriguez, you need Pasquale, Anzarike, DJ Reader. You need these guys every week to be a constant threat. And really, you need that spot to be a constant threat. Whoever's in that spot. Yeah. Take the name and the number off the jersey and just say, listen, if 1, 2, 3 are working, 4's coming in hot. And it's just, we're going to wear people down time in and time again. And I think we're heading this way to the offensive side now of time of possession, the ability, what the run game means to this team. What it does when you embrace the run pass action game, you have a perfect game. You have an 18 for 18 game. And you don't need to have you don't need to have 400 yards and 6 touchdowns from Goff to put up 40 plus. He's going to put up 18 for 18, 200 some plus, and a touchdown. And that means you're going to almost touch 50 points. Perfect. I mean, that is just the blueprint that, again, I'm going to say this till the end of the season. It's going to be so hard to just keep it that simple.
Let's talk about 2 things that you just said. Time of possession, I haven't actually looked at the numbers, but I think this game was effectively over. I believe it was our second drive. It was 93 yards, 12 plays. I think it was 7 or 8 minutes long. I mean, the game was over at that point. All you got to do is keep that going. So that drive was fantastic. But you just so casually stated the fact that Goff was 18 for 18 with 2 touchdowns and a receiving touchdown. We have to talk about this. We may circle back to the defense, but you said it. Let's talk about how surgical Goff was.
I mean, it was coming. I think we both went defense because we knew there was so much to talk about, because
absolutely.
When does this happen? How often is a guy this surgical? You said it, right? How often does Dr. Goff show up?
Never has somebody won 18 for 18. I think
So
the
listen.
record. I think the record before was 11 for 11, or the stat said 11 pass attempts or more. I know there's been guys in games that have completed more than 18 in a row. I believe, harken back to Rich Gannon against Tampa Bay, where he was 51 for 61 or something like that. So he definitely went on a tear where he completed a bunch of passes, but never has anybody played a game so precisely and so methodically where they're 18 for 18. And, you know, friends of mine, I had a lot of friends at this game, and they were not aware that that was happening at the game. They didn't know that a record was being set and that they were witnessing this performance that you might never see again, right? And I think
according
Goff,
to Dan Campbell, neither did he.
he didn't give him the ball, right? I read that today. He didn't give him the game ball.
Yeah.
Didn't know what was happening.
We'll find him a ball, he says.
Yeah.
But that just shows you, man, how cool that is to be 18 for 18, but how meaningless it is for those guys in the moment. Because, dude, I know you saw it. The first sack he evades, spins out of, and just rockets a ball.
Yeah. And you know
that's
what?
Kind of when you knew it was over with that.
That's something that he
good.
wasn't doing earlier this year. We both were very alarmed by the fact that he didn't seem to be making reads and wasn't hitting checkdowns and forcing the ball out to the corners, to the outside.
Mm-mm.
He got back to grit football last night and just, you know, it was like the ultimate game managing performance. When you think about game manager, you don't think about 3 total touchdowns. You don't think about 100% completion rate, but he just managed that game. If we needed Goff to throw the ball 42 times, he could have. He's proven that he can do that, but that surgical precision coupled with how effective this run game was with Montgomery and Gibbs, running back 1A and running back 1B, right?
Well, when you put tape down like this early on the season, teams are going to come and look at you and say, okay, you can win in overtime. You can win when you're, how about not lighting up the stat sheet, but somehow the numbers are double. What are you going to do when everything is clicking? What are you going to do when you're getting the ball to JMO 9-10 times. You're getting the ball to St. Brown 12 times. Montgomery and Gibbs both have eclipsed 100. There's going to be a game where that happens, Hitch. Like, let's not kid ourselves. I know we said we're not going to be slackies, but if you look at the trajectory of how they're giving you little dips of, like I said, peeling the onion back, there's going to be a game where they just release something nuclear on us, where it's going to be, you know, I think where it's going to take their gangster, their cachet, their respect or lack thereof from the teams in the league and go, holy shit, right? There's going to be that moment. And we're excited as fans.
It's happening on a micro level already.
There you go. You said it.
Yeah.
It is.
It's happening.
It is.
What was the bullshit game before this game? I hate the fact that they're doing these doubleheader Monday night games, but in the Titans...
Titans and the Miami Dolphins.
During that game, I can't remember which offense it was, but they ran their variation of this hook and ladder, and immediately I thought, there it is. There it is. The league is emulating Ben Johnson's play calling again, and before I could even say that to my dad, who I watched the first half with, Troy Aikman, was it? Or whoever was the announcer was saying, oh, there's a page out of the Ben Johnson playbook. They did it again. Look at that. 2 hook and ladders.
Chiefs did it too.
Yeah.
Chiefs did it on a play that we used on them. So, no, you're right, dude. It's happening on a very micro level right now. But the macro moment, I guess, is what I'm talking about. I'm really curious to see, what game that's going to be and what happens after. You know, the night after. Yeah. It's going to be really cool to see because I just saw, to me, another, we'll call milestone in Jared Goff's confidence.
Another gear,
right?
Another milestone.
Like, yeah, he came here and thought, the city loves me, but is it because it's just Detroit? Okay, we ride with him. Start chanting his name everywhere. Great, it's after one season. He gets a big bag, right? I really feel like somebody came up to him and said, dude, what are you waiting for? You know what I mean? Like, rip it off. Rip and grip. Put the chain on. Get the buffs on. You know, like, own this shit. And that's what we saw at him. That's a new standard of confidence, is what I saw at him. Now, it's not going to be 18 out of 18 every week.
If there was a conversation had with Goff about what are you doing here, I almost feel in a way like it could have gone in the other direction. Like maybe it was Ben Johnson, maybe it was Amon-Ra St. Brown, maybe it was Campbell. Who the hell knows? But I feel like at some point somebody said, not so much find the extra gear, not so much what the hell are you doing, but just do what you do. The extra bag doesn't matter. The NFC Championship game doesn't matter. To be you, boo. Do what you do, right? And this is what Goff did last year. Never has he been 18 for 18, but he just came in and week out last year in spite of some turnovers, in spite of getting sacked, not being mobile. He just did what he had to do. And I don't feel like that conversation was take the gloves off and find this gear. I feel like the conversation was just do what you're capable of. Find your checkdowns, right?
Yeah, that's what he did last night.
A lot of those completions, barring the 70-yard bomb where Amon-Ra St. Brown was just waving J-Mo home, it was a lot of checkdown. Tim Patrick had a couple of receptions. They finally were able to get it out to the tight ends again. What's his name had 57 yards, which was a season high for him. He was checking. Nope, not my buddy. But he was checking down. He was checking down, and not so much to the backfield, but just these intermediate, I should say, reads that allowed these speedsters to go. Get the ball in the hands of your playmakers. Let them go. That 70-yarder to J-Mo, how much of that was yak? 50 fucking yards? 55 yards? I would have to rewatch it. But it was all
watching him pull away. Watching him pull away was like, it was like the movies where he's running really fast, and then it zooms in on him, and it just zoom, and you see it. The gear's grinding, and it just hits another gear, and he just takes off, and it's like, holy shit!
Yeah, at one point, a Seattle defensive back looked like he was gaining a little bit of ground, and I kept thinking about St. Brown. Stop windmilling him home and turn around and block and put your body in the way, make a block. But J-Mo is just that fast. And St. Brown,
I believe it was Witherspoon.
Was it?
The corner that we were enamored with. I believe that's who he ended up beating, because after that play, he was gassed.
Well, I'm glad I'm glad that St. Brown didn't turn around and touch him, because that just exposes you to a flag at that point. But I think St. Brown was like, why? Why turn around and try to block this guy out? Because he's just not going to.
There's no need. There's no need. And not to get off on a tangent, but all I'm going to say here, because we've already mentioned so many of them, what Alabama has done so far in the college football aspect of things, start falling in love with some of these players, dude. Because Brad Holmes is going to be drafting something off of this team that you see, this Alabama squad, because it looks real special. And not to say cross over to college, but really, mark it right now, 10-1-24. That's what you're going to see, dude. And you're going to see not just J-Mo, you're going to see him bring in guys like this that they do what they're advertised, and they come to work, and there's a plan for them. And you're not going to see that plan, and it's not every week, but it's going to, when we use it, we're using it at the right time. You talk about open, useless yards, right? I said time of possession, but I look back on the sheet. According to this, Seahawks have time of possession. Now, what I want to say is that first half of the game, we controlled that whole entire game. So it didn't even matter if they end up averaging out and getting more time of possession. Most of it was meaningless catch up. Most of those yards from Geno Smith were him throwing it to where we're in a prevent, right? And there's these big chunk. All we got to do is tackle them so they can punt the ball. I mean, I did not see anything that said on this sheet, on this stat sheet, that it's 42-29, but it was 42-29.
Absolutely. Now you have me curious. What can you look up? What was the time of possession?
25-56 Lions, 34-4 for Seattle. So,
and what you have to look at too is when you're taking the top off for a 70-yard touchdown, that sways probably a good 3 or 4 minutes in that time of possession. Regardless of if you finish that drive with a touchdown or not, when you rip off a 70-yarder, that you're going to be hard pressed to win time of possession with a 70-yard touchdown, right?
Well, of course, and that's why I'm saying, like, that's one of those games where, dude, our team is our playbook is, I guess I should phrase this, wicked, sneaky, and unique, that if you're just looking at this stat sheet, you're going, what's so special about this? Okay, yards per, like, literally, it's pretty average, like, on point. But then you look at the score and you're like, yeah, but what happened? Oh, fumble lost, interceptions thrown. And then you've got, like what you mentioned, how do you even quantify the impact of these players on a stat sheet? You don't, right? You're going to see that in the wins and losses column.
It's just like Hutchinson that doesn't show up on the stat sheet as much as you might think, but he's wreaking havoc and freeing up other defenders. You don't have to get on the stat sheet to just be a game changer, right?
No, that's when you know you've got a special team. You've got a really unique roster that it's almost like you got to see it to believe it, right? You had to see that game. You had to see the hook and ladder to believe it. You had to see David Montgomery literally going head on and smoking, I think it was a corner or a safety right in the chest and knocking him down like he got shot with a freaking slug 12 gauge and keeps running with like no momentum being lost, right?
That was
wasn't
my
just
favorite
one
play of the
time.
game.
That was just
to
his
was my
most
favorite play of the
graphic
game.
hit.
Yeah. The country is going to look at this game, and in perpetuity, they're going to look at Jared Goff scoring the touchdown through the air from Amon-Ra St. Brown. But I think I watched that Montgomery highlight between this morning at work and before, when I got home before we recorded. I think I've watched that absolute plant, that hit stick or truck stick, if you want to call it, from Montgomery. I think I watched that 30 times today. That, to me, just personifies what this game was and what this team is. And just seeing those two objects meet, and he was just unrattled. That defender hit the ground sideways, like lateral to the side ground or the sideline, and didn't know what hit him.
Well, I'll see you a Montgomery, and I'll raise you a Gibbs, because look at his highlights. Look at the way he just jumps through a small little gap. It almost seems like it's a piece of paper. It's like the secret world of Alex Mack. He just turns into liquid and then pops up again and keeps running. I mean, that's what I'm saying, dude. There's so many ways that we can skin this cat with this offense, and we've only seen a small portion of it. It's just where I keep coming back to, because I can't wait to see that macro moment.
We've talked about the injuries that this defense overcame kind of seamlessly. We haven't talked yet about this play on the offensive line, right? You have a new center.
Yeah.
I believe in Glasgow.
That was a big worry, honestly. I'm not going to lie. That was kind of nervous losing Frank Ragnow, thinking, oh my God, we've got this great offensive line, and here we are. An injury, it's going to expose a weakness, but yeah, dude, we got the depth. We looked at the roster. Okay, I think I'm okay. You know what I mean? I'm not too worried about it.
Well, not only Glasgow moving back over to center, where he played at a high level a long time ago at Michigan. He's played it on and off in the pros. He's one of those center guard guys that are coveted. But again, you're going to laugh because I'm going to butcher this name. We talked about him tonight before we hit record. Owasiki, the left guard, I believe, formerly coming in from free agency from the Eagles. I think last night was the first time that I really remember seeing this guy's name, right? And I thought, oh boy, this is going to be rough. We're gonna see a lot to the right side, and Seattle's going to key in on this fact that we're running to the right. It didn't stop us. I didn't Google how many runs to the left, how many runs to the right, but it didn't stop us. The short yardage Gibbs touchdown was right between this new left guard and Glasgow. They were getting pushes. It's hard, maybe harder for them to get over not having Frankie than it is not having Brown, than it is not having Branch. And this offensive line, via run game and pass protection, they were able to call any play they wanted. It just speaks to the depth that we have on this team.
So where do you think, from an overall team perspective, right? Because we've done a pretty good job at highlighting the sexy stuff, the fun stuff, like the big hits.
Sure.
We were talking earlier about missed tackles. Okay, that's something I want to come right back to, because that why can't we play the third quarter, Hitch? Why? What is it about the third quarter we can't tackle?
I don't know.
This has been my gripe. This is just my one knock on this whole entire situation here. Is just why the third quarter?
This problem persists, and we've said it before, and we'll keep saying it until they prove us wrong. This isn't this regime. We have never been a team that comes out hot, right? It doesn't matter if we receive the ball or kick off at the onset of the game. We just don't come out hot. I think last night was the hottest I've ever seen them come out. It was a pretty evenly matched third quarter. I personally, and I think you said it too, I never thought that we weren't going to win this game, but in the third quarter, it got a little dicey. We are not a team, for some reason, that comes out real fired up. And I don't know what has to happen for this to be a thing. And I'm not looking forward to this to be a thing where we just put the screws to everyone in the third quarter, week in and week out. It would be wonderful if we could. But to answer your question, I can't. I don't know how we can be so lackluster statistically in the third quarter and be somewhat dominant quarter one, quarter two, and quarter four. And even what we did to the Rams in overtime. Why couldn't we do that in the third or fourth quarter? Last night was the most complete game we have seen out of them this year, and probably looking back in a long time, but we still cannot come out and just slice it.
Dude, we are the worst team in the third quarter. I'm looking this up right now. Points per game. Yeah, it is a fact. Most points per game in the third quarter given up. Like, it is a fact. I'm bouncing around through all these sites because it's not a normal stat that we track, right? Who's the worst team in the third quarter? And it was last year too. We were up there with the Commanders. There's a trend, and I just don't get it. I'd like to think, as smart as this franchise is, that they're going to do something about it. And I really don't know what that option is. Maybe I need to start watching these third quarters a little bit more in depth and saying what is missing.
So off the top of my head,
that meets the eye test, right? Because we're not in the locker room, we're not on the freaking sideline. Dan doesn't answer my text anymore. He moved.
Off the top of my head, I'm starting to wonder just now. They have a formula. They have what they view to be a game script going in. Their formula works. They're winning way more games than they're losing. Maybe we're seeing them stick to their game plan at all costs. It is yet to really cost them a game. It would be nice to come out and put the hammer down, But what like honestly, putting the hammer down means that you're airing the ball out, means that you're bringing the house on defense. And I hate to say this because it's so fucking cliche, but let's look at this. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. We're winning way more games than we're losing. It would be nice to see them come out and just aggressively end a game early. But in order to do that, you have to deviate from the successful game plan or game script, if you will. So right now, I think I might be coming to this realization that they are just going to do what they do. And especially when you're in the lead, the other teams are going to get more desperate. The other teams, if you look up this stat, I don't know if you can even find it, but I would guarantee you that these teams, when they're behind, are throwing the ball more, right? So I hate to say this too, but maybe it's a little bit of this bend, don't break. Stick to your game script that is working because you're winning more games than you're losing. So maybe we need to get out of this mentality of looking for them to just full throttle, full throat destroy somebody. What they're doing is working.
How about this? Let me rephrase my question. I think I know what's wrong looking at this now and listening to you talk. What player is going to step up and own the third quarter and say, I'm part of that game plan in the third quarter? Because we know the first quarter starts with David Montgomery and Amon-Ra St. Brown. If you equally distribute a little bit of love to those two, you're going to have a very successful first quarter. By the second quarter, Gibbs has to be all the way acclimated into your game plan. He should have already had some touches in the first, but he should be part of it, right? Laporta, I think, helps you establish that through the first and the second. I think we're falling flat in the third, and we're getting JMO in the fourth because we're getting back into that one again where we're running it hard, opening it up, tight end, boom to JMO. But I feel like there's a reason why, or there's somebody missing in that third quarter, some contribution, some game plan in the offense that says, okay, this is what we do in the third quarter to slowly get things going, but maintain the momentum. Let's not lose it.
Are you trying to lead me to come back at you with a specific player? Do you have something in mind here, or is it more of a tempo thing that you're looking at?
What I have in mind is inspiration, and I'd like to give you some motivation so you can give us some inspiration to tell us who you think, since you've pretty much been kind of calling the shots here for the team, who do you think right now and say, I think if we could try and make the third quarter a little bit more about this young man or this player and, kind of give me your reasons why.
Well, again, to echo what I just said a minute ago, is I don't want to see them deviate too far away from what is working. What would be nice is...
I'm asking you to add, not deviate. I'm just asking you to add.
We saw Amon-Ra St. Brown's volume go up. We saw Laporta's volume go up. I guess, feet to the fire here, gun to my head, I would be looking at Laporta playing more of a Travis Kelce type role, more of that over the middle. We ran a lot of double tight yesterday and kind of stacked one side of the line of scrimmage on any given moment, and we were running to that side. We were letting loose over the middle to that side. We were developing strong sides, if you will. But Laporta with, 5 or 6 for 54 or 5, whatever it was, for 50-something, was nice to see him being a regular contributor. But I think the whole country, not just fantasy football players, are looking for Laporta to break out. And you do that by working the play action. You do that by running these double tights, and you do that by keeping that run established. And again, there's too much talent here. Gone are the days of Calvin Johnson getting 13 receptions for 170 yards, right? If you want to key in on somebody, you have to key in on them because they're open. And if Laporta's covered, it's because St. Brown is open. St. Brown and Laporta are covered. You're going to have Brock Wright or Tim Patrick or JMO open. I would like to see them get the ball into JMO's hands more.
You're getting
the over the
close. You
top,
said it.
the
You
over
already
the
said it
top
once.
shit. I did. Well, let's hear
You
it.
said
'cause I'm
Tim
damn-
Patrick.
my
Tim
boy.
Patrick. You've been calling it before they got him.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, why? Dude, then I see him. He averages 26 yards last game. Granted, it's 2 receptions for 52, but he had a nice big 29-yarder.
He showed that he can run with the ball after the catch last night. He also
there you
showed
go.
that he
So
can
guess
block.
what you basically went through and described, Hitch, is last season we tried to put Laporta in there in the third quarter and say, this is your time to open it up. But in the reality, we're waiting for Tim Patrick. And now that we've got
give you that.
him carved out and we've seen what he's got, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying we've been waiting for this specific player, but we've been waiting for that X. That's it. If we can
Patrick
find
over the middle, Tim Patrick on slants,
that's a T-shirt,
and Tim Patrick through the middle is something that
that's
we
a good
should be excited
Actually, that's
about.
a restaurant. Tim Patrick over the middle. I think that's our next. That's our next.
That's a restaurant where you stand in line for somebody to carve off of like a big slab of beef, right? That's one of those throwback restaurants.
On Tim Patrick.
Yeah.
It's literally Tim Patrick over the middle. It's literally you're eating over Tim Patrick.
Yeah,
no, I think that's, in all silliness, that's kind of where I'm headed with this. And it just goes back to what you said in episode 1. That there's an opportunity for this player to come in and not pad the stat sheet, but fill in need on the in the game plan where we've got an opportunity now. You're coming out of halftime. All you're concerned with is our marquee players. And here comes Tim Patrick over the middle, right? Or ABC. We tried to get Tom Kennedy for years to do this. We've had so many guys that we've offered an extra spot on our team to say, take advantage of this. But this, I think you're right. This might be the gentleman due to his size, speed, and strength.
Well, then that's what I want to say. Let's cut him loose in the red zone.
Yeah.
Right. If you're running double tight and they're both covered, right? Let's cut him loose to a corner and float one up and see what happens. He's 6'4".
I think
he's acclimated. It took some time to get him acclimated. He's acclimated. He's 6'4". He's acclimated. I don't want to discount what he did in the run game. Everybody was kind of firing on all cylinders, but he was able to seal that edge and allow us to run outside, right? Mom, meatloaf, fuck.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I'm glad you brought this back around because I pick a few guys every year to be high on, and seldom I am wrong. And with this small sample size and Tim Patrick, I feel good about it.
This is going to be, I think, Greshak's next jersey is Tim Patrick.
Dude, I'm not a jersey guy, but I would wear a Tim Patrick.
You're going to get a Tim Patrick jersey? Oh, here comes the weasel. You want to be a part?
What's up, gang?
What up?
I'm trying to get him to be a part of it. He's got the whole setup. The world wants to hear the weasel.
Jason was calling some shots last night, wasn't he? You were texting me.
He was.
He was more than just watching that game. He was watching that game last night.
He was, though. I'm sitting in the recliner, and he's kind of on the big L-shaped sofa, and he's just laying down, and I can't see him, but I can hear him, and I just hear, oh, that's good play action. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It's like an echo of me.
Yeah.
It was really cool. I mean, he was calling man coverage. He was calling out just some of the schemes, man. Things you don't expect a kid who's about to be 13 to really hone in on. But, dude, I guess I'm telling you, playing Madden, you and I know, that literally teaches you football. That is football university. Playing Madden against your friends, too.
I was
not just playing against the computer.
I was late to playing actual football. I did not play Little League football. I did not even attend two-a-days my freshman year. The season had started my freshman year when I joined that team. And I remember kind of shitting myself and freaking out about I really don't know that much about football. And all all season, beginning of that season, I was running like Madden through my head because it really is a game simulation. And when you break it down to X's and O's and trying to work somebody free and trying to scheme against that, there is no better simulation than Madden. I mean, honestly.
Well, in roster familiarity, play calling,
Yeah.
it lays it out so nice that it's a digital, it's football university, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's living proof. We didn't know it at the time when we were playing it and getting so obsessed with it, but you can see the plays in your head. You can see the little colored zones too.
And you learn how to run
and it transitions.
You learn how to run clearing routes on paper. You learn how to read defense a little bit. You get to put somebody in motion and see if they're shadowed, figure out if they're in man or zone. And it is a good simulation, and it's a great tool to get these kids interested in the game. Not everybody is going to sit down and key in on how is the center playing or key in on the backups and how they're performing, but it's a great tool to keep people interested in football.
Well, that's where I need to get him now to learn how to follow and trust his blocks. So I was showing him what a better team to show him on is the Lions, right? The offensive line and how they're setting up those next level blocks and how the running back isn't just, aggressively smashing into people, right? He's scaling back a little bit and then peeling off. And either way, man, it was really cool to see him be so hands-on. Of course, his girlfriend called, so by halftime he was done. But
he has his priorities in order.
He has his priorities, which is fine. But it was, like you said, what kind of a better game that you could have asked for? It was a blast, and I mean, we're going into a bye week, right?
Well, I want to talk about that, and then I want to look ahead, maybe through the bye week. But I think you're right. We're ready to talk about next week, and next week happens to be a bye. And I want your take on this. I've had this conversation a few times today. Is this a great time for a bye, or would you rather come out hot after this win and have another game? Now we got to wait 2 weeks for these guys to play. Is that going to help or is that going to hinder?
I think the way you look at it is that no team is in control of their schedule. No team is in control of their bye week. So you plan for a bye week just like you plan for the next game.
True.
It's just the next game up. True. And there's a lot to put into the whole bye week. Now, I get it. If you're towards the end of the season and you're really beat up, but that's when your back is up against the wall. And I don't feel like we're a back up against the wall mentality team right now. I feel like this is just, listen, we knew our bye week was this week since before the start of the season, obviously, right? They've known this. This isn't a surprise. So they've been planning for this. And just like Jared Goff said, when they asked him about injuries to the offensive line, he said, we have a plan in place for all things like this. And she's like, well, how are you? He's like, we're enacting the plan. Like, it was just like, this is what we planned for this shit. Duh. What are you, surprised? So I'm not putting a lot into the whole bye week bullshit. It's always a benefit because we have a couple guys that could use some of the extra time, right? But really, I think all you're going to see back is Brian Branch. Hopefully his illness is better. But Davenport's out for the season. Melifonu's out for the season. Who else is on the injury report that we're super worried about?
I think you're you're summarizing what I was thinking is a lot of these injuries are long-term injuries, but you still have guys that are banged up, and it never hurts to get some time off. I just kind of wish that.
Well, dude, look at that. You're coming off this crazy at-home Monday night.
Keep talking, Mike. I got to go dark. I got to go dark for a minute. Keep talking, though.
Go dark. You're coming off this crazy Monday night game where the fan base is lighting up the arena. I mean, if you look at it, it's out of control. The brightness, I don't even know how you describe it. It was a blackout, but a blue out. It's kind of like this really big, massive, emotional start to the season, and you got through it 3-1 so far, and now you've got time to kind of emotionally unpack and come down from the win, because this is where teams like the Lions could start buying into their own hype too much and have a couple bad games in a row, which statistically we don't do. But this is where you can get yourself into trouble and buy into your own bullshit. So if we're going to play into this whole bye week scenario being anything more than they could plan to kind of have a nice, slow, gradual come down for Monday Night Football. It gives them that, like I said, it gives them that nice time to get back in the weight room, back to the game planning. I just don't think that this is anything more than more time to prepare for the Vikings, because what I see in that team is a very reputable team, but I'm not buying into long term the Vikings are going to be anything more than a really cool story, kind of how Baker took over the Bucs, right? So I don't really see this being anything more than just more time to plan for this. I don't want to say mysterious Vikings team, but yeah, who is this Vikings team? Who's the quarterback? What else besides Justin Jefferson is your identity? I think it just gives us more time to plan for that.
I agree, and I was listening the whole time. I had a text I had to deal with, but you're right. Echoing what you just said, bye week is the bye week. Everybody's banged up, even if you're not on this long-term injured list, this IR, but Branch will get healthy. I'm not sure what's going on with Melifonwu, but more time for him, great, right? But you said it too with the Vikings. This gives us some time to set back, watch some film, see what – I don't think the Vikings are on a bye, so we'll see what they do in week 5. And I'm not scared of Sam Darnold. I'm surprised by Sam Darnold. I'm not scared of Sam Darnold, but – we have an extra week here of film and walkthroughs to get ready for our first divisional opponent, which we all thought was going to be a cakewalk, and they're showing now that they're a little more formidable than we want to give them credit for, honestly. It'll be interesting to see who matches up against Jefferson. It'll be interesting to see how many sacks we can get against a not very fleet of foot Darnold, right? So you're right. Let's not make too much of the bye week. We still have to figure out here what we're going to talk about during the bye week. We have some ideas.
We can talk about how I just messed that up because I read the schedule wrong, Hitch. We're playing Minnesota. The boys. We're playing the boys, dude.
Okay.
I'm thinking to myself when I say Vikings, I'm like, I thought we were playing the boys. We're playing the boys in Dallas, Jerryland.
Going on the road. Yeah, going on the road out of the bye.
See, the energy just goes up when it comes to Jerry's land.
Yeah. Well, Dallas is a team that I believe we built our foundation with the schematic that Dallas successfully used. It's interesting to me.
I'll say more of the Saints, but that's for another conversation, and maybe we could talk about that during the bye week.
During the bye, sure.
Let's talk about the Cowboys, because this team I feel a little bit more excited to play because of what happened to us there
the last time.
The last time. I don't even want to talk about that.
Did they try to work the ball into the hands of Mr. Dan Skipper?
How sweet would that be?
That would be fucking sweet. Would that be? I still love.
They've been kind of getting their shit punched in, dude. Outside of playing the Browns, I'm looking back on the scoreboard. I mean, they beat the Raiders. They beat the Command. They've had some work done to them. Sure. This is not a team where in all the past I've always been afraid of playing them because of obviously what's happened, right? But this time it's different, my friend. This time it's different. We are not playing the sweetheart Cowboys America's team,
even being the road team. Even being the road team, I think we're coming in the power position. It'll be interesting to see what Vegas says about this. I don't put too much weight at all into that, but it'll be interesting to see if we can be favored on the road.
I guess this is another beautiful thing about the bye week is we're going to get to see what the Cowboys do coming up this week, right? So, just a little bit more extended hunting season, right? And I'm, pairing that up obviously with our up and coming or current hunting season right now. But I just feel like this is the right time. This is just the right time for us to prepare for a slaughter fest, to go kind of, you see everything that we did on Monday night, then we quietly go back into the lion's den and feast and work out and get all nasty and pissed off and lay low, right? And then we just creep into Dallas at 4:00 and tear the place apart.
Ooh, another 4:00 game. Like we said before, that's the sweet spot for us.
Dude, it's another 4:00 game. I'm excited about that. So,
is CeeDee Lamb the best receiver that will play so far this year?
That will play so far this year?
Coming out of this bye, is CeeDee Lamb the biggest test? I know DK's good, but DK's not as good as we all thought DK would be.
That's a good question, actually. Let me look at that up.
Tampa has some great receivers, but one of them was hurt. The other one had a big game, but
so we're going to play, obviously,
Cooper
the
Kupp
Vikings.
shredded us a little bit.
JJ, Mr. Jefferson, we're going to play him.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mentioned, the Vikings.
Yep.
Who else are we going to see?
At this point of the year,
coming
into week 6, he's the best receiver that we're going to play so far.
Yeah, I mean, there's guys on here. Obviously, all these teams, you can make arguments that are great, right? I'm looking at this, but nothing where I'm like, holy shit, we have to play just that guy. Right?
Chicago has a good receiver. I believe Keenan Allen is hurt right now, right? But they still have DJ Moore, so we're going to encounter that twice this year. Trying to think off the top of my head. Like I said, Cooper shredded us. Puka was injured early and a non-factor. Tampa, they had what's his name, Evans, I believe, had a good game, but Godwin, I think, was out.
Dude, Justin Jefferson, seriously, and CeeDee Lamb are going to be really. I'm looking on this list.
Green Bay has 3 serviceable wide receivers. I still stand by Reed.
We're not playing
is the best one. Right?
We're not playing Tyreek. We're not playing Jamar Chase. We're not going to see A.J. Brown. We're not seeing Devontae Adams. We are Amon-Ra St. Brown. Ayuk, 49ers. Now we're getting into that list of these guys are great, but they're not top 5. So, to your point, top 5, we're going to see CeeDee Lamb. We're going to see Justin Jefferson, and we're going to get that out of the way. We really are. Yeah.
All right.
With a healthy defense. So...
Ferguson, CeeDee Lamb, Rico Dowdell is proven to be more than serviceable so far this year. It's not that they're not a good team, but CD is going to be a test and a challenge. We'll see if we shadow him or not. That's something to watch in this game.
Yeah, I think that'll be something to watch. Again, we got a rivalry with this team, so everything I say about sneaking into Dallas, I start thinking about it. This isn't going to be a sneak attack, dude. This is a big game, so I don't want to downplay it because, Do you
have the Google machine open in front of you right now?
This is a real. The Google machine, yeah, I do. What's up?
Yeah. How many times have we played Dallas, and what is our record against Dallas? Lifetime.
$31 times, including 3 postseason games, with the Dallas Cowboys winning 19 games and the Lions winning 12.
Okay. All right, and we weathered that storm, right? There is no more Troy Aikman. There is no more Emmitt Smith. I think on paper we're the better team for the first time in a while.
Oh, hands down. I would say, Hitch, this is the best Lions team we've ever seen. This is the best roster through and throughout Lions team we've ever seen that's ever been assembled. So, we're better on paper. Yeah. We're better on paper than Dallas. We're better on paper, in theory, right, than most teams. But that is, again, another trap that you can buy into your own bullshit.
We've entered this era.
Thinking the game is played on paper, and it's not, right?
We've entered this era where we're good, and we should win every game. And this is similar to when we were kids and the Wings started being good again, and it took everybody a little while to think about the Wings being a contender, right?
I was going
But
to
they
tell
did it.
you, and I'm glad you brought this up, Hitch. I was going to say this. Going into this game was like the way I went into the Scotty Bowman era Wings, where I'm just like, yeah, we can win.
Yeah, every
I
goddamn
mean,
week.
right? Like and there's nobody saying, well, they might not win this one. They're like, all right, let's see what they got. This is their game. Like
the
this
guard has
just
shifted.
reminds me
We beat Kansas
of
City. We hung in
yeah.
with San Francisco. Philadelphia is struggling right now, right? Tampa Bay and San Francisco are probably our biggest threats in the NFC, and I'm not scared of it. I don't want to eat my words. I mean, any team can win any game at any time, but
Have
we
you
match
ever
up
been
on
scared
paper with
though?
San Fran. No,
You've
no,
never been scared.
no. The hubris that I had in some of these terrible Lions years, right, where I was just so optimistic. I didn't let it beat me down, but
No.
so many games that we should have or could have won and just didn't. But now it's different. It's so different. It's just like the Red Wings. It took us a little while. Again, it took us a little while for us to really wrap our heads around the fact that the Red Wings.
Oh, I think you bumped your mic. You must have unplugged it. Hey, there he is again. It's Hitch.
Am I back?
He's back.
All right. So let's see.
You didn't get attacked by ISIS, did you?
You know what? If this shuts us down, I have to click this refresh button. If this shuts us down, I think we had a good episode.
Shut us down.
Let's see what happens.
We're having fun. We're still recording. It's good. Don't worry about it.
All right. Well, I can't shut down without leaving the studio, so I'm going to keep going, and hopefully this doesn't mess us up. But
listen, I keep telling you, Mr. Boomer, that you're not going to mess this up.
Well, just to close up on my point here is this team is good. They're good. They're built to win every game, and just like the '97 Wings, they're good from the top down. The ownership, the general manager, the front office, the head coach, the position coaches, the training staff, and then the personnel on the field is just so equipped. And
the marketing team, the jerseys, the ability to reconnect.
That blackout with those jerseys, we haven't talked about that yet. That's the best.
Pretty sick.
Oh, that's the best any team has looked in the NFL in years, and those helmets were fucking fantastic.
And the fact that they're reconnecting with the players that we should have never lost connection with, Calvin Johnson, Barry Sanders. We're bringing back some of the past while honoring the future. I mean, they're doing the right thing. Let's just say they're doing the right thing. I just don't see this stopping.
Calvin going into that Ring of Honor last night was pretty cool, man, and it's well overdue. When's the last time a player got into the National Football League Hall of Fame before being honored by their team? And the fact that Calvin was so savvy with coming back and being honored and being a visible part of this franchise over the last 2 or 3 years, it's just everything has turned in the right direction. And as victimized Lions fans, it has taken us a while to realize this, I think, but the window is not rapidly closing. I heard a lot of talk about this is our window and we have to do it now.
We got too many young players.
Yeah, nobody hopes more than me that they do it now. But the window's not closing. If we make the playoffs and make a run, and if it doesn't happen, hey, it's not over. We got a lot of these guys locked up.
Too many young players, too many favorable contracts. Again, and this is where it's like the PTSD. We got to stop looking for obscure negative shit to talk about. Like there'll be a time and a place where we can talk about the window closing, but
sure,
dude, the window's got to fully open before it closes, and it's almost. I mean, it's open, but like you got to jump through it before you can say, "Oh, it closed."
Yeah.
I'm just not even gonna entertain that type of conversation right now.
No, so, I dig it. We got a lot to look forward to. A lot to be happy about right now, and a lot to look forward to.
Of course we do. So, well, before we get out of here and come back for the bye week, because we're doing the bye week, we'll have lots of stuff to talk about. I think we'll probably have a lot more fun too with an open platform where we're not even just trying to stick on one game, because with so much excitement, I think that has not been the hardest thing, is just try to stay focused one game at a time. So I think the bye week is going to offer us some time to talk about off-season stuff, draft stuff, whatever really is on your head, whatever's on my head, whatever's going on in the league. things we like, things we don't. Um, shit, man. I think there's just going to be a good, fun bye week conversation to have. What's you say?
I say this. I say that the fan forum on Facebook was set up to be a place to talk first and foremost Lions. In our description, we talk about draft, free agency, everything Detroit Lions, but also conversation about the rest of the league and Detroit sports in general. And today, interestingly enough, and I know it's a trendy topic right now, but for the first time ever that I can recall, we had a current, or I should say a frequent contributor to the fan forum discussions talk about Tigers baseball on the Detroit Lions fan forum. And he led this with saying, I know this isn't Lions, but let's talk about these Tigers. Not only is that a great reminder to me that the fan forum is about Detroit sports, first and foremost Lions, second most what's happening around the NFL, but Detroit sports. And we have a lot to be excited about right now in Detroit sports in general. So don't be surprised if we get on next week and talk about the Tigers. Right before we recorded, we were talking about the playoff win tonight, and it was huge.